Yo, what's good YouTube? ZAMCRO here, aka Scoop, back with the APA Evolution. We've got our Season 1, Week number 5 match. And we're facing off against Silver, coach of the Floridian Typhlosions. So as you can see on the screen, he's got a pretty scary squad with the Sheer Force Landers Incarnate, Mega Gardevoir, which it's a insane nuke. Completely, some people think it's, less of a mon since the pixelate and the elite abilities have been nerfed, and instead of doing 1.3 times damage, it's doing 1.2 times damage. I don't think that's too big of a nerf whatsoever. I think it's got amazing utility as well, and it's regular Gardevoir on screen, but it's actually Mega Gardevoir, so that needs to be noted. My opponent has Ferrothorn, Araquanid, Goodra, Alolan Persian, Arcanine, Mienshao, Starmie, and the Rotom Fan. So he's got some nice forms of hazards in Landers and Ferrothorn and Araquanid. And he's got really solid means of removing hazards as well in Starmie and Rotom Fan. And I'm not sure if Landers gets defog. It may not. I'm not real sure. I know Landers Therian does. I'm not sure if the Incarnate form does. So Landers probably going to be something along the lines of Life Orb, 3 attacks, and maybe something like Rock Polish. He could also be Calm Mind. He could just be 4 attacks and have U-turn. He could be Scarf. He could be Life Orb, Specs, Soft Sand, all kinds of different things Landers can run. But yeah, its offensive presence alone makes prep difficult. You have to have a way. Either you're going to run offense, or you have to have a way to switch into Landers. So that's something I considered during prep. And Mega Gardevoir, I didn't want to bring things, so passive that, my opponent could use a Mega Gardevoir to set up on me and things like that. I've used Mega Gardevoir recently, and I know how well it can be used, how well it takes advantage of some, fatter things that can't really dish damage back, such as something like Tangrowth or Slowbro in this instance. So, yeah, definitely wanted to check to Mega Gardevoir as well. And Ferrothorn, it's not offensively threatening, but defensively it is a menace. And if you look at my squad, I don't really have anything that can break it outside of my Alolan Marowak or Cobalion, one of which I'm not bringing. So obviously my Alolan Marowak will be important in breaking the Ferrothorn and things like that. So I wanted to keep that in mind as well. My opponent has Araquanid, so in my prep I didn't think Araquanid was too big of an issue. As you see on screen, with something like Liquidation, Leech Life, Ice Beam, and Webs, it's actually a huge nuisance. But I felt like it would be more so annoying if he got Webs up. I didn't feel its offensive pressure was enough to overcompensate for or over-prep for or anything like that. So I decided to leave my team as it is. And if you're looking at my squad, go ahead and we'll recap my entire draft. We've got Zygarde 50%, Mega Diancie, Tangrowth, Crocodile, Slowbro, Miltank, Cobalion, Alolan Marowak, Oricorio, and Piloswine, where our Z-move users are the Zygarde 50% and the Oricorio. So, that being said, we've decided to bring Zygarde 50%, Mega Diancie, Tangrowth, Crocodile, Slowbro, and the Alolan Marowak. For this matchup, I felt like these were the best 6 months for the matchup. I'm sure we could have taken some other routes as well with things like Oricorio or Cobalion, but definitely satisfied with my prep for this match. So my opponents, I left off on Araquanid. Goodra is another Pokemon that can be extremely bulky, can be a nice tank, dishes out solid damage as well, and it gets really good coverage, so I wanted to be weary of that. So my opponent also has the Alolan Persian with Parting Shot and Knockoff, Taunt, can be very annoying. The Arcanine and the Mienshao can be 2 amazing breakers for my opponent, physically offensive. I don't really have the best high jump kick switch in outside of Slowbro and Alola Marowak. Alola Marowak, which is immune, and Slowbro, which eats it up pretty well. But neither of them like to take a knockoff from something like a Life Orb Mienshao, or coverage moves from Arcanine if it were to be Life Orb or Choice Band or something like that. So my opponent's got some very, very scary squads, and the Starmie, which outpaces my entire squad and could make for a good revenge killer for things like Zygarde, Mega Diancie, Crocodile, especially if he decided to bring a Choice Scarf variant. So a Choice Scarf Starmie, while it doesn't have all kinds of normal merit, it does have a lot of merit in this match to revenge kill Choice Scarf Crook, Dragonance Zygarde, regular Mega Diancie, unless I was to get a Rock Polish up, and then I would outpace it. And then Rotom Fan. So Rotom Fan's a little bit odd. It does some weird things. Obviously, it does what all else Rotoms do, and it's got that Fan typing, so the flying typing. So it could be cool to see. He may not bring it though. So the mons that I 100% expect are the Landorus Incarnate, Mega Gardevoir, Araquanid, probably the Ferrothorn, and something like a Alolan Persian, and maybe Goodra, perhaps Arcanine or Mienshao. I'm not real sure. And like I mentioned, Starmie has a really, really nice merit as a Choice Scarf user in this match. But yeah, it's going to be the prep. Actually, we didn't even talk about the prep. So we've got a Dragonance Coil Substitute, 1,000 Arrows, Zygarde 50%. It's meant to be able to set up on things like Ferrothorn, Araquanid without Ice Beam, Alolan Persian, so on and so forth. And then just like really nukes his squad. He doesn't have a ground resist outside of Araquanid, and his immunity in Landorus and Rotom Fan, but 1,000 Arrows will ground those, and it hits flying types anyway, so not too big of an issue there. Zygarde could be a late game win condition, or it could be a early to mid game breaker. Mega Diancie is, I believe, just protect 3 attacks with Moonblast, Diamond Storm, and actually Moonblast, Power Gem, and Hidden Power Fire. I didn't want to risk Power Gem missing versus things like anything really, and I didn't want to be intimidated by Arcanine after Mega Evolution. So definitely felt Power Gem was the better bring. I felt my team dealt with Mega Gardevoir decently well. And the Hidden Power Fire is there for the Ferrothorn, obviously. And then we've got Protect to scout and see if my opponent, potentially a Choice Scarf, Landorus, Choice Scarf, Mienshao, scout for Ferrothorn's moveset and things like that. Maybe my opponent wants to set rocks up, predicting my switch with Ferrothorn, and I just click Protect and I get rocks up on his side. And then the following turn, he knows I'm going to switch, and then I just bop him with the Hidden Power Fire or something like that. Just mind games. Tangrowth is an Assault Vest variant, takes on the Landorus Incarnate pretty well, switches in on the Earth Powers super comfortably. I've got the Giga Drain knockoff Hidden Power Fire, and I think our last move is the Earthquake to hit Goodra semi-hard. But not too much to say about that. It switches into Starmie pretty well, switches into Goodra and Landorus Incarnate most of all. And I guess it can take hits from Mega Gardevoir as well. Next up we have Crocodile, which is going to be a Choice Scarf variant with knockoff, Crunch, Earthquake, and I believe Pursuit as our last move. Actually, we may have Stealth Rocks and Taunt on this, and it's not a Choice Scarf variant, so forgive me for saying that. I was a little mixed up in some of my sets. But we do have Slowbro, which is going to be a defensive variant with Scald, Psychic, and I believe we bypassed on Flamethrower for Slack Off. And we have Trick Room. So Trick Room is the key to this match. My opponent does have potential for Sticky Webs. So, and his team's naturally fast, outside of things like Ferrothorn and Araquanid. Naturally fast. Not super fast, but good speed tiers. Nothing too slow. And I felt like using Slowbro as a Trick Room variant and having Alola Marowak underneath the Trick Room is just phenomenal. So we've got Flare Blitz, Shadow Bone, Protect, I believe. Do we have Protect? Well, I know we got Flare Blitz, Shadow Bone, and we may have Stealth Rocks on this bad boy as well. Either way, the idea is to use Alola Marowak to sweep underneath Trick Room, or as long as he's got webs up, the rest of my team functions well under Trick Room as well. So that's going to be that, and we can go ahead and hop into the replay. Alright, so here we are with the replay, and my opponent chooses to bring the Landorus Incarnate, pretty much expected. You don't draft it and not bring it. He's got the Mega Gardevoir. Did I say Mega Landorus? I meant to say Landorus Incarnate. Whatever I said, I meant to say Landorus Incarnate, Mega Gardevoir, Goodra, Araquanid, Starmie, and the Ferrothorn. So Starmie does come. I did expect it to, and I do expect it to be Choice Scarf now that I do see it here at the preview. So, obvious leads for my opponent include things like Araquanid and Ferrothorn. I definitely wanted to lead off with my Mega Diancie to go ahead and get my Mega Evolution off so that I have the Magic Bounce ability. And I have Protect. So I'm just going to lead off with my Mega Diancie. It doesn't matter what my opponent leads with. And he's going to lead with the Araquanid. So I'm going to just click Protect here as my opponent goes for the Liquidation. So now that my opponent has revealed Liquidation, I'm going to assume that my opponent thinks I'm going to switch out the following turn into something like Tangrowth, or potentially even Zygarde or Slowbro to come in on the Water type move. So I'm going to click Power Gem here, and I'm going to immediately regret it as he reveals to be Chartyberry, and just go ahead. He just goes ahead and clicks the Liquidation there and blows me back. I don't think I would have knocked him out. I mean, I was thinking he might have been Sash anyway, so I didn't expect the Power Gem to kill. I just didn't expect him to attack on this turn. So that was really unfortunate for me, as I do lose Mega Diancie, which could have been a nice win condition as well. But the Ferrothorn being a nuisance, I did feel like Mega Diancie wouldn't, thrive in this match. So I was okay with that exchange here. And now my opponent's going to go out into his Ferrothorn as I go ahead and get my rocks up. And he reveals the next berry on his in his master plan there, as the Ferrothorn just drops to the Flare Blitz. I do not take recoil damage because I am Rockhead, so I don't take Flare Blitz recoil, which is nice for me. Only taking the Iron Barbs damage there leaves me at 88% here, and now I can switch in my Tangrowth as he brings in the Landorus Incarnate and decides to get his own rocks up. So that was a ballsy play there, but I guess he knew I wasn't going to stay in. He goes out into his Goodra here on my Giga Drain and reveals Sap Sipper. So really unfortunate for me as my opponent gets the freeze on his first Ice Beam try as well. I go out into my Slowbro here, and I'm going to just fire off a Psyshock, but my opponent lives after Stealth Rocks, and I'm not going to be able to avoid webs now, but I do have Trick Room in the bag, so I'm okay with this. I'm going to go for the sub to see what my opponent has to hit me with. He does reveal the Ice Beam, so I'm just going to take him out with 1,000 arrows here. And now my opponent has a few different things he could go into here. Decides to go into his Mega Gardevoir, and he could just Mega Evolve and knock me out. But I do have a Frozen Tangrowth in the back, so I'm just going to sack this thing off instead. And, sorry about that. Anyways, just sack off my Tangrowth, and I actually double out into my Landorus because I expected my opponent to switch out. Excuse me, my Zygarde expected my opponent to switch out, but he does not. He actually reveals Calm Mind once again too, and goes for the, as I go for the Trick Room, he's actually going to attack me on this turn. I was hoping he would Calm Mind again, or attack straight up. I didn't want to go into Tangrowth in case he, like, Tangrowth is sack fodder, but I didn't want to go into Tangrowth just yet, because my opponent could still just use it as setup fodder. If I was 100% sure he was going to Hyper Voice on that turn, I would have went into Tangrowth and saved my Crocodile, but I didn't want to be in a less favorable position than I'm already in. So I bring in my Alola Marowak here. He reveals Protect, so he's going to be able to stall some Trick Room turns here. And I felt my opponent would would bring in his Gardevoir on this turn to click Protect on the last turn of Trick Room, but he actually just lets his Starmie go down, so I was completely fine with that. Now I'm going to go out into my Tangrowth, and I'm going to eat up whatever he wants to go for here as Earth Power. I can comfortably chew that. I could pivot into my Slowbro here, but my way of winning is with Trick Room. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into my Slowbro, I'm going to take the web damage, I'm going to survive the Earth Power and get up at Trick Room. And then instead of attacking on this turn, I'm going to slack off, knowing that I'm still in range of the following Earth Power, and I can bring in my Alola Marowak on the following turn and start to sweep here. Should just be able to click Flare Blitz, and my opponent's going to have to rely on a double Protect here, which is 50% chance. He gets the first one, obviously, it's 100%, but the second one here, he does not get, and we're able to blow him back with the Flare Blitz. Picking up with Alola Marowak, picking up 5 knockouts, we do earn our first victory in the APA Evolution. So really happy about that. Finally coming out on the winning side. I feel like all of my games so far have been extremely close, I believe, except one. And I felt like we could have been sitting at 0-4 right now, or we could be sitting at 4-0. More realistically, sitting at 3-1, in my opinion. Going into this match, I felt we could have either been either 3-1 or 0-4. So I'm not too concerned. However, this win, despite just being a 1-0 win and our first win coming in week 5, the goal is to make playoffs. So we've got a tough schedule ahead of us. Now we've got, I believe we actually got Hiker Toad in the next following week. And first of all, good game to Silver, and I guess we'll just go ahead and cut it off there. We're keeping these APA Evolution videos short anyway, so we'll go ahead and keep it short here too. Just let me know what you guys thought about the prep and the plays on both sides of the field. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all the good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.